Welcome back, everyone, to our favorite comic book show, Wichita Vice.
Hey, yes. Here we go. Oh, dang it. I don't have a start. It's Captain Chris with a K.
Straight from the Fortress of Solitude. It's the off-brand Superman, Marquez Christopher Eason.
We'll leave it for later on, you guys. But it's your host, Carlos. You guys, I'm glad we're finally back. We need to get back to our comic book heroes and villains and so forth. But you guys, before we dive in, let's go ahead and take a quick pause and thank our following sponsors.
Hey guys, why don't you check out She Barber Cuts Barbershop and give Markeisha Brown, the licensed professional barber there, a call at 316-218-3566 for all your haircut needs. She's got cuts for kids, adults, and for those looking for the good one, the deluxe with beard trims, wash, and hot towels. So don't forget to give Markeisha a call at She Barber Cuts and see her at 2319 North Ridge, Barber Suite 6A here in Wichita, Kansas.
Before we kick in, you guys, we will do a big announcement for Deadpool 3. So don't forget, Wolverine is going to be on there in Deadpool 3. I'm excited, and some other characters. So we're going to come up with something here. And also, stay tuned to your local Comic-Con shows as well. We're going to dive into ours here in good old home, sweet Kansas. But if you have one in your state that's listening, hey, tell us more about it. Send pictures.
Support your local con.
Comic-Con. All of them. Well, you guys, let's start in with the heroes. We're going to go a little different. So before we kick off, we just want to let you guys know that this is a family-friendly show. And so we're going to do the best to our abilities to water it down for the cat, but at the same time, try to keep it in essence what the character is. So for our friends and family, just know we don't support those kind of things, but just know that there's always good in some of these characters. You just got to see the best of everything. So let's kick it off with the Punisher. Yeah. What is his motto? Marquez, do you know?
His motto?
Yeah, don't you know? He's a judge, jury, and an executioner. Marquez, get off the show. I mean, I'm kidding. We need you, my friend. We need you. Well, let's kick it off. He was created by Jerry Conway, John Romita, and Ross Andrew. He first appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 129, back in 1974, before our time. Yeah. So let's go ahead and dive in a little bit about his skills. Chris, kick it off with us for the skills.
Well, he's super skilled in guerrilla warfare, definitely military tactics and strategy. Obviously, he's super, really good. Physically, he's a beast. He's really good at close combat, close quarters combat. Spy things like infiltration, great with a gun, knife, pretty much anything that gets arrow. He's got great marksmanship, and he can make just about anything blow up. Yeah, I would say, people especially.
Yeah.
Well, Marquez, tell me a little bit about his backstory.
Well, Frank Castle, he was a decorated military captain, actually, and he was a winner of like the Bronze and Silver Star recipient, and then he was also a recipient of 4 Purple Hearts. He's a very skilled combat veteran, and he was in the Vietnam War.
So
this tells you how old
the timing of his release was like.
Yeah, in the 70s. I mean, and the character himself, honestly, all characters, they represent some aspect of humanity. I mean, good and bad. I think for me personally, the Punisher is more about post-traumatic stress disorder. I think it's
I almost feel like Rambo, first Rambo, the actual first Rambo was kind of almost based on Punisher,
the Punisher.
Like that kind of mentality with the amazing abilities that Rambo displayed.
Once he retired from the military, he went to New York and he went to a picnic, and they witnessed a mobster shooting, and then the mob wanted to take out the witnesses, so they turned on him and his family. He was the only survivor.
Right.
So that's what put him on this path of punishing evil. You know, I mean, he's what we call an anti-hero. You guys know anti-heroes, they got real popular in the 90s.
Right. You know, Spawn was a big one.
Blade, Venom, Wolverine, Punisher. They all that's when everybody started noticing anti-heroes. You know, this type of
Ghost Rider.
Yeah, Ghost Rider is another one, but this type of brightly colored, in-your-face, obvious heroism, they kind of shot that down, literally, pun intended. But yeah, that's really what the character represented for me. I love the comic book series, the War Journals. I mean, you guys remember those? that's when it really Frank Castle became this gritty, just internalized. I love characters that narrate their own comics. You know, I mean I love an internalized character that kind of pushes the narrative. You get to see what goes on in his head. That's when the Punisher, to me, kind of became the Punisher that we all know today.
When I always think of the Punisher like he's called the Punisher because, like you said, like he punishes the evil, but almost like it always seems like he's actually the one that's getting punished, almost like he's punishing himself.
Yeah.
Either for survivor's guilt from his family or probably some from the war before that. But it's like I don't know. I feel like there's like this double meaning behind it.
Yeah.
For his character,
That's a
if
nice-
that makes sense.
Of course. Yeah.
With the kind of thing, the PTSD, and like he's like, yeah, he's delivering justice, but man, especially when you get to more current, like the Punisher series, like the amount of, but even in the comic books, like he takes incredible amounts of pain, physical pain, and almost torture to certain extents, depending on the situation. But his mental anguish is always like,
Yes.
like he's always questioning himself, and
Yeah. And I think that's part of his penance, if you want to say. He kind of, it's like a self-punishing kind of thing. Like he kind of throws himself into any situation, almost hoping to die, almost hoping to get, killed. And then he just keeps surviving. And I think maybe in a lot of ways he sees that as, okay, I'm meant to do this. I'm meant to,
Well, and then also too with the Punisher as well. I mean, he created the system of saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to take out all these villains, and I liked how the script turned to where you see the Marvel Knights. So you put them in this separate category, and then you have people like the Punisher, Daredevil, Moonlight, Elektra. Would you consider Luke Cage along those lines of being a Marvel Knight?
he's better.
So you
I
keep
think
him
he's
more of the
more
comic
hero.
book hero. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think he's more hero than, especially like Elektra and Punisher,
Yeah.
Moon Knight even. Although it's Moon Knight because of his multiple some of his personalities are very hero-esque.
Yeah.
Whereas the other, where like the actual like Moon Knight is can be, or the whatever that god is that Khonshu that it is kind of anti-hero.
Gotcha.
Like I'm just gonna destroy everything for the good. Like I'm gonna kill everybody so that there's good.
Yeah, I recently went last year to a Comic-Con, and when I was out there, I found the comic book where he appeared with Spider-Man. And it was a pretty pricey comic. I was like, man, I wish I could get that. And the guy, I can't remember the owner's name, but hey, if you want a replica copy, we have. And he was selling them, and it was almost the same.
Replicas.
Yes, they're the ones that were reprinted.
Sure.
But they keep the old theme look, and so I ended up getting it. And the comic book was awesome because he was going after Spider-Man. So just to see him doing that, and then also moving on over to him in Civil War. It was awesome that they brought out the Punisher because how he respected Captain America.
Yeah,
And in the comic books, they ran across each other.
Yeah.
And so what happened was
soldiers.
And so what happened was Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, gave Frank Castle a chance to be on the team. They're like, no, he's a bad idea. No. Yeah. He goes, no, he'll help. Next thing you know, these villains came in. We need help. We're getting attacked. He took care of them all.
Destroyed.
Yeah.
What happened in that particular issue, Carlos? It's cool that you saw that because it was in the Civil War in the comic. Spider-Man
not the
turned
movie.
against Tony, and then Tony got mad and he wasn't trying to kill Spider-Man, but he hurt him pretty severely, and he sent the villains that they had hired to capture Spider-Man. And the Punisher shows up, kills these villains, and saves Spider-Man. Takes them to the lair of where Captain America is, and he tells him what he did. And Captain America starts beating the Punisher up, and the Punisher wouldn't defend himself. And they asked why. He said, because he's a soldier. We all, in my platoon, we all grew up, we all went through the bad times during war hearing about what Captain America did. I have nothing but honor and respect for this man. I cannot raise a hand against him.
Right.
And so, and it was actually just this really weird scene. I didn't know. I was like beside myself, like, oh.
Well, just
I never
shows,
knew
like,
that
how drilled into him
Yeah.
his military life was.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing, self-punishment. He's just,
Well, let's talk a little bit about the portrayals in the movie. So we could kick off with, oh boy, I can't believe we're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
So the 1989 version starring Dolph Lundgren. I'll kick it off with you first, Chris. Tell me how you feel he was portrayed in this movie.
Enough that I know for a fact. I saw it. I know. I remember what Dolph Lundgren looks like as it, and it was just bad. Like, I don't remember anything else about the movie. Like, just shut it out. It's gone. That's what I remember from it. Like,
Lou Gossett
like-
Jr. was in that movie as well, and I had just seen the movie Enemy Mine, and I remember thinking like, this guy's a brilliant actor. Oh man, let's see what else he can do. And I remember we rented that at this video store. The Punisher. I remember reading a Punisher comic a week before I saw the movie was available to rent. So I was real excited. I was sorely disappointed after watching that. They didn't even bother to put the skull on him,
Right.
you know, and he was just, you know.
Well, that's like it almost wasn't even a Punisher. It didn't feel like it was a
Well,
Punisher suit.
back
Like, it just
then,
felt like a generic action movie,
Back then,
which is why I just don't remember much. Like, oh yeah, it was a generic action movie.
they didn't take comic book movies seriously. Or
Right.
at least I don't think they did. I think they just
No.
kind of, like you said, a cash grab and kind of, okay, hey, what's this? Oh, okay, let's do this.
That's why Captain America, the old Captain America movies didn't do too well.
Yeah,
'cause it
well,
was-
those were
No,
bad.
oh yeah, but that was more. Hey, Tim Burton had released Batman that year, and that did well. And they
Well,
thought,
that was good.
Let's do our movie, and it was kind of like Captain America became like this answer to the Batman thing. I remember a few people talking about that back then. They were
Quite the
saying-
difference of storylines there
but they're
and personalities.
yeah.
plus,
Like,
too,
one is full of hope and one is full of
You gotta give-
darkness.
depression.
You got to give credit to Dolph Lundgren. I mean, he was coming off the success, especially with
Of
Rocky
He-Man.
4 and He-Man.
yeah,
So
He-Man.
when they had the Punisher
Yeah.
on there, when you see the cover, you're like, oh, he looks bad. I said, but where's his skull at? Like what Marquez is saying.
Yeah.
And then I watched a little bit of it. I'm like, this looks like a ripoff of Black Rain. It's a movie way before everybody's time, but it had Michael Douglas and Andy Garcia, which, Ridley Scott, it was a good movie, but anyways, but back to the subject on hand. Yeah, it was terrible. I don't highly recommend it because it didn't really portray Frank Castle as should be. But
No.
then moving on later on, back in 2004, we
Yeah.
got the Thomas Jane version of the Punisher. So, Chris, how'd you feel
At
about
least
that
there
one?
was a skull.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. I think it just left a lot of the story on the ground. There was some interesting interactions with him and Rebecca Romaine's character,
Yeah.
and her brothers and that family, like him trying to help. They're trying to kind of make it like he was the savior of their situation.
Yeah, Kevin Nash played that giant Russian dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it just
Yeah,
didn't
don't-
feel like
that
there
was
was
his
much
name, yeah.
story to. Like, there was not much substance to it.
No,
Like, it was just all
Yeah.
very surface. Thomas Jane was a fairly action kind of hero, so but I don't know, there just didn't seem much meat to the.
no, it just the plot and everything just kind of.
That's the one with Travolta as the villain, right?
Yeah. It just I personally I thought they could have done a little more with that.
Well, and that I
was just-
feel like Travolta played like a very comic booky, like
Yeah. Yeah,
like
he
think
did
the
that.
old Joker from the '60s Batman, like that kind
Yeah.
of villain, like almost cheesy. I know he wasn't dressed up like that, but like he was like the criminally insane, weird.
He reminded me too much as in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
That's how he came off.
trying to do, yeah, like
He did have the long hair still, didn't he, for this?
Yeah, he had the long hair for this.
all swept back.
Yeah, I was like, no, cut it. The only part I liked about it too was, you saw the skull and then him trying to do some action, but it just didn't do it for me, and I didn't care for it. But then moving on later, in 2008, 4 years later, we had Ray Stevens did Punisher Warzone. How'd you
Yeah.
feel about that one?
Yeah, now that one, you're getting more of the grit.
Yeah.
Ray Stevenson, maybe he's a better actor than the other two because he's a great actor, or was a great actor. R.I.P. Mr. Stevenson.
Yeah.
Sad to see you go, but yeah, I mean, I think there was just more. Again, there was more meat. There was more depth to the whole character. I feel like.
Of course, yeah. And they really made him kind of. You really got the sense of this tortured soul that just kind of was just dragging. An analogy that a friend of mine gave me back when that movie came out is like when they killed his family, he died, but they
Right.
just didn't bury him.
Well,
So
like
we
you were
don't
saying,
know what this is
he-
going around killing
He
the
fit
villains.
that. He fit that mold of like punishing himself, like throwing himself in, like live or die. I don't care. If, like I'm ready for someone to kill me. I'm just gonna fight as hard as I can until someone does.
Yeah, and he just kept surviving.
Right.
Yeah, and again, they did the skull on him. And the reason why we keep mentioning that is because symbolism is very important, I think, when you have a character, when you're portraying these types of characters, because a lot of it, symbols, we kind of rally behind them, you know, in a lot of ways. And I think if you exclude that, if you take that, you take a large part of the character's identity. You know, I can't imagine a Superman movie without the S
On his,
on his chest, without the insignia. That would just be painful to watch.
Which doesn't stand for super.
No, it stands for hope.
I
But
know.
it's actually an insignia. It's
I know. I was just
but,
kidding.
but anyway, we call it an S here on Earth.
Yes.
Anyway, but no, and that's kind of one of the things why I think that Ray Stevenson wore the skull well. You know, I really liked him in that role.
Yeah, definitely, especially the villain. We're going to talk about him in a second, but Dominic West, he portrayed Jigsaw, and Dominic West has been in a lot of TV
Yeah.
series. I became a big fan of him when he was the main star in The Wire, the show The Wire. That was a phenomenal. Then he appeared again in 300. He was in 300, and then he had a show called The Affair, but that's more for adult content show.
Yeah.
But anyways, back then they introduced the character that we're going to talk about next, and his name is Microchip. Microchip was created by Mike Baron and Klaus Jensen. He appeared in The Punisher issue 4 back in 1987. So Microchip here, let's dive in a little bit about him. What skills do we have with him, Marquez?
Microchip.
Yeah, Microchip. I'll start off. Well, he's a hacker,
Yeah,
computer
and that's
geek
about-
guy, and he becomes the Punisher's friend. He builds his van, his super fortress van, his hideout spots. Also, what he did was they start hacking into like the mafia's money. So he was just a computer geek all the way across.
Hold on, I thought his name was just Chip. I didn't know it was Microchip.
Well,
That's what happens when they became friends. It became Chip.
Okay. But no.
I'll just name you Chip.
Okay, it was just Chip. That's why you said I'm like Microchip. Okay, all right.
It's not the Terminator, Marquez. Stay on subject.
Okay. But no, yeah, he's a genius and he's the confidant. You know, he kind of regulates the things behind the scenes, tells the Punisher, okay, where to go, what's safe, what's good, when to attack, when to come back. And he also drives the Punisher van, doesn't he? Yeah, that's right.
With no skull.
No skull on the van. Yeah.
Too much of a giveaway.
Okay. No skull. Okay, yeah.
Just
we
black.
Rant and raved about symbolism and they just, okay.
But yeah, by his name, David Lieberman here, we know that he did a lot of hacking, and what happened was he worked for the mafias and trying to rip up one another. But then we found out in his backstory, he got betrayed, and then so what happened was I don't know if you guys noticed, in his hand he lost a finger. Well, who took his finger out? The Kingpin.
Oh.
And so he wanted out for revenge because the Kingpin killed one of his family members. And who is someone that does not like Kingpin?
The
The Punisher. So hey, let's be friends. Okay, that will work. Now, if you want to have it in a friendly version, if you guys remember the 90s Spider-Man, when the Punisher was trying to track down Spider-Man, he was high tech. He had a real mean attitude, Frank Castle.
Yeah.
But, Chip over here was like, okay, he's your computer guy, your tracker. Kind of remind me of remember the Ninja Turtles when they had their little van, and then inside they had their little didn't they have like extra
and
stuff in there?
Donatello was kind of like the smart guy, actually making
And he could
sure
shoot
that
out
the
stuff out of the
little,
car.
manhole covers out of the front.
Oh my gosh, get those parts of AutoZone. But anyways, so then what happened was in that show, I liked how he was portraying that show. And then when they did the Punisher on the TV, the Netflix series, I liked how that kind of developed at the end. Everyone has their spin-off, but in the comic book, we know that he helped the Punisher in not just in the technical aspects of things, but also being a friend. Even though the Punisher doesn't have friends,
No.
he was just someone that he could just trust. It was kind of cool too in the comic books where they would have their hideout. It was kind of like remember in Blade where they had their certain different spots or their layer out and no one would know. But yeah, Chip was very useful there.
Okay, yeah.
But okay, well, let's go ahead and take a quick pause and thank our following sponsors.
Hey guys, have you ever seen those little towns in Kansas and wondered, what's there? Let me tell you about a hidden gem in Salina, Sky Trampoline. It is the perfect place for both family outings and spending the day with friends. They have large open trampoline jump court, a ninja course, a setup to test or develop your parkour skills, and that's not even close to everything. Additional fun can be had in their foam pit, dodgeball area, a laser maze, and even an arcade. They also have specialty events with black light lit trampolines and a DJ. Sky Trampoline is located at 1820 South 9th Street in Salina, Kansas, and is open every day until at least 9 most days and sometimes even later. Give Sarah a call at 785-491-1118.
Let's move on over to the villain side. Well, when you have the good, you have someone even worse. And we have that guy named Jigsaw. All right, Jigsaw was created by Lin Wynn and Ross Andrew. He appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 162 back in 1976. Marquez, tell me a little about Jigsaw.
Yes, he's horribly disfigured, and he's kind of one of those characters that you love to hate. You know, you look at him, and a lot of times we look at villains, we associate worth with appearance in a lot of ways. And this character, he reminds me a lot of from the Batman universe, Two-Face. Without the duality. I remember in a game I played, I don't know if it's canon or not, but it was a really cool portrayal of Jigsaw. He actually got one of Iron Man's suits, and he nearly killed the Punisher in it. You had to stop him using electromagnetic weapons. But anyway, that's a gaming topic. But no, he's actually, I think he's the Punisher's nemesis. Yeah, and he's a mobster. He's the head of like an internal mob organization. I forgot the name. I can't think of the name of them, but they basically they want to control the organized crime along with Kingpin. So yeah, he's a mobster.
Well, formerly he was known as William Billy Russo, but he was also called the Bew because in the comic books he was just an attractive looking dude, but he was actually an assassin, and so he had his ducks in order. But what happened was eventually. He got in the crosshairs of the Punisher because in the comic book originally, was he one of the hitmen that killed the Punisher's family?
See that they changed that continuity.
Well, in the series they did, but no. In the comic book, no. Yeah, I remember now. No, he was not. But he was hired. He had a contract to take out the Punisher.
Yeah.
So then what happened was the Punisher found out, hey, there's a guy that's got a hit on me, so all right, we'll get him. Well, he squared off against the first time against him, but he didn't kill him though. But he almost did. So instead was he kicked him out of a glass and disfigured his face. But in the TV series, yeah, that was not cool.
That was rough, man.
That was pretty rough.
I had to look through my fingers a couple times. Well, and in the TV series, they were actually war buddies.
Yeah, see, and that's another
like
thing.
best
That's what they
friends.
changed.
Like,
yeah, I couldn't understand. I was like, wait, this is gonna be.
I mean, it's set
Jigsaw,
up for a
right?
pretty good climax with both the second and third seasons. Is that when he?
Or second.
Second
yeah.
and first.
That was when he realized who he was and what was done to him and stuff
Right.
like that. And Jigsaw, but Jigsaw wore a mask in the series.
Well,
yeah.
that was
Black
after
and
he
white
got.
one.
That was after he
Yeah.
got all cut up from their first go round.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actor
Yeah.
portrayed pretty well, Ben Barnes.
Yeah.
He was also, I believe, he was in that show Westworld. He was in Westworld, and he was the friend that was taking him out west. But that's a show for another day. We'll talk about.
He's
that
also
in,
in
the classics.
Shadow and Bone on Netflix, so kind of a fantasy magic
Okay.
show.
I've never heard of that. Shadow and Bone.
But
It's
we
pretty
know
good.
we know
Couple
eventually
seasons.
we know eventually that Jigsaw is, I mean, by all means, he is the arch nemesis of the Punisher.
Yeah.
And he just refuses to go down. And the thing is, in a couple of the series that are out there, you see that he's just skilled. He's a skilled marksman. He's got tactics. He knows how to challenge the Punisher, and the Punisher has a hard time against him. But at the end, in the Netflix series, what a great job. In the movie Warzone, he was portrayed, like I said, we talked about Dominic West. Dominic West did a great job. I
Yeah.
liked how he was getting to him. But in the movie, not to spoiler alert, they killed Chip in that one.
Yeah, they did.
I was like,
Yeah.
hey, what a coincidence! You died by a dinosaur in Jurassic Park, and you die here. What a coincidence!
He
but
dies well. He should be a
but
Klingon.
you're right.
Star
He gets no credit here. But we know that the Punisher has a variety of villains, and eventually we're going to get to them in time there. But let's move on over a little bit to another character that does not get a lot of recognition, but he is also one of the Punisher's arch villains. His name is Barracuda, and I don't mean the song from Heart. I'm talking about Barracuda. This guy was created by Garth Ennis and Goran Parlov, appeared in the Punisher Volume 5 back in May of 2006. So he's not really old character here. So,
Okay,
Marquez, tell me a little about Barracuda.
He's a very new character. I mean, he's an assassin. That's about all I know about him. He's
He's your ego, Marquez. Big dude.
He's
but
kind
bigger.
He's similar to the Punisher, highly trained
Yeah.
in armed and unarmed combat. Probably gets a little bit of his Barracuda name because he's really good at swimming.
Okay, so he's
combat
he's
swimming is what.
Combat swimming.
That's what he was
That's
listed
an
as.
actual-
He was actually in the military. You could do the backstory when he was young. And then like I said, it's already noted. Parental advisory here. We already said it. Okay. So he endured quite a bit of a traumatic childhood.
Yeah.
Got in a fight with some kids in school, gouged the kids' eyes out. And, like I said, I'm trying to keep it as light as possible here. And so then later on, he got noticed by a renegade general, said, hey, you know what? You seem a pretty aggressive guy. You want to join the army?
Special Forces.
Let's do it. So he did some operations in Central America, but then he started getting shady. And what he ran across Nick Fury. And people like, so he was on notice, like, hey, this guy's pretty savage. We got to keep an eye on him. And so what happened was he got shady and greedy, betrayed his unit, and what happened was that he was a merc pretty much. Mm-hmm. Later on, they put a hit out on him because he's like, hey, you know what? He's bad news. We need to take kind of like Apocalypse Now kind of scenario. And so what happened was at the end, he was like, you know what? I have a skill. And I'm not talking about Liam Neeson kind of skills. I'm talking about the guy can literally, he can be your assassin, he can be your enforcer, your muscle, you name it. And so from there on, he goes, I'm going to work for the mafia. I know my calling. And so then they pitted off Frank Castle and the Punisher and Barracuda. And when he's on these series, them two go at it. I mean, the guy is as knowledgeable in weaponry as Frank Castle. So, Chris, what else could you dive in on?
I would say one of the things that gets me about him is he's depicted like to always be like happy about this super sadistic work that he does. Like he's just generally like cheerful, optimistic as he's, killing and mass murder and cannibalism. Like
So
he's
like-
just having a good time with it.
So he's like a mix of the Joker and the Punisher.
Yeah. But he's super strong, great physical strength and endurance. But yeah, he just has no moral code. And I mean, he, like you said, he had an extremely rough childhood, like extremely abusive, and it led to him essentially not caring about life. Probably as
If you could pick a character, Chris, let's just say in Punisher season 3, they decide, hey, you know what? We need a Barracuda character. Who would you let him portray Barracuda? Who should portray Barracuda?
Ooh, that's a good one. I want to say Michael J. White, but I don't know if he's big enough.
240 pounds? Ripped?
No, I mean big enough, like tall enough.
Oh, okay.
Like, cause he's like a
Kind of
menacing.
think of Debo.
Yeah,
Or
that
Michael
guy's too
Clark
old
Duncan.
now. But those guys are too old now.
Well, Michael Clark Duncan's no longer with
Well,
us.
yeah,
So.
he's definitely too old.
The same way with Tiny Lister, he passed away. He died of COVID.
So, but someone of that nature, like you got to have some. I don't know. I don't watch enough WWE anymore, but probably someone from there.
Mark Henry.
There you go. He's not as fit though, is he? He's kind of a big.
He's a big boy. I mean,
Because you need someone that's going to be athletic, like skilled hand-to-hand martial art.
I like your portrayal of Michael J. White. That would work.
That's where I think he's
just
combatant
You
enough.
need somebody that's
Maybe he's fighting Tom Cruise then.
make him look bigger than what it is. But, no, like in Luke Cage, like for example, in Luke Cage, like the one that portrayed
good.
Bushwhacker, great
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
That was
Bush
to the point.
Bushmaster.
Oh,
Because Bushwhacker is a Punisher villain.
you're right. In
He mutated his
Bushmaster.
arm into a gun.
Right,
I like
right,
him
right.
actually. He's pretty cool.
He's pretty cool. Well, we'll figure it out. I was going to say Giannis, but I was like, nah, stick with basketball, bro. Stick with basketball. You're good. But indeed, these characters here, the Punisher, we're going to dive in more to their characters down the stretch. But, I mean, as right now we're coming in, we will stay tuned for – we're going to do something big for July, especially for Deadpool. So, Deadpool, we are definitely going to go all out there. I'm glad we're finally back, you guys. This was amazing. I'm glad that we caught up. Chris, any shout-outs before we go?
Just everyone out there listening, appreciate it.
Yeah, same. Thank you, guys.
I want to thank everyone as well behind the scenes. Thank you, our friend Eric and Pal. Thank you so much for the things that you guys do, as well our local comic book shops. Thank you for keeping us entertained there, and as well, and then also for the people that we get references from Variant Comics as well. I got to give you my respects and thank yous for doing that. And until then, you guys, if you have a character you want us to dive in on, all you have to do is we'd appreciate your like and subscribe. But as well, let us know. Let us your thoughts. Tell us a character you want us to do. And if not, follow our previous shows as well. We've done a variety of characters as well. Well, until then, we'll see each other soon. Take care, guys.
Peace.